Okay, so this morning we talked about long-term cycles, and this afternoon, hello. This morning we talked about long-term cycles, and so this afternoon we're going to talk about shorter-term cycles. We talked about long-term cycles on stocks this morning, buying those bread and butter stocks when the price comes down into the planetary range. And so this afternoon we want to talk about not only the bread and butter stocks of buying those in and trading them, so to speak, so buying them in many places, and we want to talk about stocks, hot stocks for 1998, and where you will be looking to buy them, how you will be looking to buy them, how you will be looking to trade that stock once you get into that particular stock. So first of all, let's look at this graph that you have, and you have this on your page 2, I believe, of your book. And this is...
Are you going to be using transparencies only?
Yes.
Okay.
Now, is this Schlumberger?
Oh, you've already got them off.
Yeah, I got them off. This is Schlumberger.
Okay.
And in the fall of last year, we printed out from the Galactic Stock Trader, we asked it to go into its search facility and print out for us stocks that were going to have the ability to increase in price during the 1997 period. And what we were looking for is shown to you right here on this chart. For example, looking at the first trade chart, it tells you this is the transits to the first trade, and this means the first trade chart of Schlumberger, which is the date that it had its first trade. So we want to look at transits and transits of Jupiter to that day. So the computer program looked at that and for us printed out this particular sheet. And it showed us that during 1997 we had this huge selection of aspects of Jupiter. First of all, it made a conjunction on the first trade Sun, then it made a conjunction on Venus, then it made a conjunction on its own Jupiter. And what this means is, for those of you who are not familiar, you know, the date that something is born, you have a standstill of the planets in the chart on that day. But from that day on, of course, the planets continue to move, and as they move, they come back to those positions that they were on the day that it was born, or the day that it was the first trade. So we have, yes?
The inner chart is the current sky, or is the inner chart the natal?
We're not there yet. We're looking at page 2 right now, just looking at that. We're not onto that yet. Okay, so what we're looking at then is the transits, which is transiting Jupiter. That's Jupiter right here, and where it was on all of these dates to the left of it, and in relationship to the natal planets of the first trade chart. So that's exactly what we're looking at. And as you can see, Jupiter made a conjunction with itself, then it went over Mercury, it hit Mercury again, it went back over its own position, it went to Venus, it went to the Sun, it went to the Sun, it went to Venus, it went to Jupiter, and, well, it's going to go to Jupiter and Mercury. These two aspects still have to happen because we're not in 1297 yet. But you can see this is a tremendous amount of energy by the planet Jupiter on the natal planets, or the first trade planets of the Schlumberger chart. And so we expected this chart, this stock, to go up in price during this time. Now, we picked the fact that we wanted Jupiter on there. We went into the program, we said we want to see Jupiter on these charts. And what did we want to see with Jupiter? We wanted to see Jupiter on just exactly what I've listed here. We wanted to see it on the Sun, we wanted to see it on Mercury, we wanted to see it on Venus, and we wanted to see it over its own position of Jupiter. We wanted to see transiting Jupiter to all of those positions. So we asked for exactly that. And we got exactly that on the printout, because Jupiter is the big expansive planet. You know, it expands everything. It expands price. It expands whatever it's doing. Jupiter has to do with not only expansion, but increasing value. So So where stocks are concerned, when Jupiter comes in, the price of that stock increases in value. It goes up. And not only does the stock go up in price, but what you also have is the fact that in the company itself, within the company, they start doing a lot of expanding in the company. They hire new people, they get bigger office space, they go out and do new things, and so the whole company starts expanding. And so while this transit is going on in the natal chart, this company is just expanding and expanding and expanding and expanding. Now, you can't expand forever. And the opposite to expansion is contraction. And contraction is ruled by the planet Saturn. And so Saturn is the counterpart to Jupiter because between the two planets, you have balance. If you didn't have them both, you would expand to the point that things would just be crazy and couldn't work. And if you had contraction to the point, you'd have nothing left. So those two come in balance. So what happens is that Jupiter gets into a stock chart and the whole thing expands. But the way we know it expands is the price goes up. That's what we're interested in. So the price goes up. But while it's doing this tremendous expansion, it gets top heavy. It becomes, they've spent a lot of money, they've done all of these things, it becomes top heavy. So Jupiter then moves out of the chart, or Saturn comes into the chart. So one of the two things happen. Jupiter finishes, and when it's finished, then all of that expansion, they have to say, well, wait a minute, we've got to, tidy up a little bit here or not be so big. This top heaviness isn't working. That's just Jupiter going out of the chart. So then, or people look at it, the stock buyer looks at it and says, this stock is too high priced. That's Jupiter. The price is too high. This stock just won't fly at this price. And so they stop buying it. They won't buy it when it gets that high. That's Jupiter leaving the chart. So there's a point that when Jupiter leaves the chart, the stock is going to come down in price. Now, if Saturn comes into the chart following Jupiter, then you have the other principle. Suddenly, they're so top heavy that this stock has to cut back. And then they start with their layoffs. And this is Saturn. They have layoffs. They have cutbacks in everything. They get a smaller building. They reduce everything. And they cut it back till it's a lean, mean company again. And when it's lean and mean, Jupiter comes in again and starts the whole expansion process all over again. So you've got this cycle going on in stocks all the time. And it's strictly ruled by two planets. Now, there's a lot of other things that happen in that chart, but if you didn't even look at all these other things, just by looking at Jupiter and Saturn alone, you can make money on your stock charts. So that's what we're going to pay attention to today. So let's just go back a second and talk then about the bread and butter stocks that we talked about this morning. When would price be likely to go down to those lines that you would be buying on for the long term? When Saturn comes into the chart. So anytime bread and butter stocks get a Saturn in the chart, that's the time, as soon as Saturn's through with it and about to move out, you're looking to be buying that stock because it's going to have brought that stock down. So all of those stocks that you have in your file from this morning, you want to look at those stocks when Saturn gets through with them. You're not so interested in looking at them as Jupiter comes in because they're going to be high anyway. And so you want to buy them when they're low, which is Saturn going through the chart. So that's what you're going to look at with those particular stocks. But with all the other stocks that we're going to be looking at for short-term buying, because Jupiter only stays in a chart for 1 year. So you have a 1-year time window for the stock to increase. And so this is exactly what we're going to be looking at. Let's go to this point, Thomas, and just look at the chart so I can just go over that a little bit with them. And this is the chart of Schlumberger, and there we go. And as you can see, the very first list to the left side of the screen, where is our little mouse? Can we see it? Can you see it? Can you see it? Yeah, oh, there it is. Okay, the first list to the side of the screen there, that list is the planets' positions on the day of the first trade. And as you can see, just looking down that list, you can see that those little squiggly lines, unless you know, if you don't know about them, are all Aquarius. And so you see the Sun was in Aquarius, Mercury was in Aquarius, Venus was in Aquarius, Mars was in Aquarius, Jupiter was in Aquarius. And so we had a lot of Aquarius planets in this natal chart. And all of these Aquarius planets led us to believe that when Jupiter went into Aquarius, which it did in the spring of this year, when Jupiter went into Aquarius, it would be a good time to buy this stock. So we had already had the chart, the list printed out that I showed you a few moments ago from the stock trader. It gave us the list. You would just want to go into the stock trader search section, Thomas, and show them how we would find that. Just show them exactly what we would do. And just choose any stock will be fine. Okay, so you would just go through and you would choose a starting date, which you could do, let's say, whatever date you'd like to choose, January 1st of 19. I always just take the first of the year and the last of the year because I'm going to search my whole file. And you would just take those dates, a start date and an end date, and then you would choose geocentric planets, and you would either choose the incorporation chart or you would choose the first trade chart, either one, whichever you wanted to choose. But you would put in your, under your transiting side, under the, where it says heliocentric or geocentric, what you would choose there for your search. You would always choose Jupiter and Saturn, because those are the two things that deal with the expansion and contraction of the stock price. And the reason you want to put them both up and run them both together is because you don't want, even if Jupiter is in a chart, but Saturn is also there, you don't want that stock. You toss that stock out. That's not going to be one that you want to deal with. Now, there's approximately 3,000 stocks, charts in this database, so you've got plenty to choose from. And lots of people say, well, I really would like to buy such and such a stock, but can I do it? It's got Saturn, and should I said, but you've got so many to choose from that all have the good stuff. Why do you have to insist on taking one of these iffy ones? Get one that, what I go through is I get all the best things that I can possibly get out of this stock file, get all the best things, and then, you know, you don't want anything with Saturn in it. So anyway, when you come to the first trade or the incorporation chart, the planets that have to do with expansion money-wise for the stock is going to be Sun, Mercury, Venus, Mars, and Jupiter. The moon is also good, but the reason we don't check the moon on here is because most stock charts, we don't have an exact time that it was incorporated. The first trade is usually 9:30 in the morning, but we often don't have the exact time, so your moon position can be off some, so it's better not to check the moon in this search section that you're doing. So anyway, you run the search section, you let it search for you, and then when you get the stocks that it's listed for you for the year, that's when you would go back and look at the wheel of the stock. I always go back then and I look at the wheel of the stock and see if there's anything diabolical there that I wouldn't want or doesn't look nice or anything else at all that may make me want to rule it out. And so once I've done all of that, then I'm ready to go on and look at this stock. So let's go back now and look at the chart of Schlumberger and see what happened. You have in your book, it's going to be your page 3. I'm going back to the overhead.
Switch the projector.
Excuse me, I have a refining question.
Yes.
I thought you had said that you could make money in the stocks by just using the Saturn and the Jupiter.
Well, that's exactly what we're doing, yes. Just
But then I thought you said just a few minutes ago, and maybe I misunderstood when you had went
Mhm.
there and checked Saturn and Jupiter, you had said something about, but you don't want to choose anything with Saturn, so I didn't understand.
you don't want to choose anything with Saturn in to buy. You wouldn't, if
Oh,
Saturn
okay.
has come into the chart, you're not buying it while Saturn is in there. You're waiting till Saturn is almost through, because by the time Saturn gets through with it, the stock is beaten down.
Yes.
And that's when you want to buy it. You don't want to buy it as soon as Saturn comes in or your price is going against you. Okay, this chart right here on your page 3 is the Schlumberger chart as it was in the spring of last year. And what happened, Jupiter lines again, you know, we looked at these Jupiter lines this morning on stocks, and you'll like these every time on stocks. And so what happened was in March and in April, we had a buy came down on the line. Now, if you recall, you will, on that sheet that I had up earlier, it gave you the first date of Jupiter in a conjunction with the Sun was March 21. So the rule is that you will be looking to buy this stock somewhere around the date that this aspect comes into the chart. So that was March 21 was our time window opened up to buy the stock. You can buy it a month before, you can buy it a month after, but you're looking to buy it somewhere in that point. But you're looking to buy it not just simply because that's the time to buy it. You're looking to buy it either supporting on a line that you know that it works on, like we have right here. We're looking to buy it on that, or we're looking to buy it with a technical entry tool, which we'll put on there in just a moment. We're looking to buy it for a specific reason. Now, as far as this stock was concerned, I did not buy it until this date right here. I opted not to buy it on that date, and the simple reason that I opted not to buy it on that date was because back last year and early this year, I was predicting that the market would make a low in the March-April period because of the fact that we had some cycles which we'll be going over tomorrow, and I show you exactly how you calculate them, that we would have our low coming in of the year right there. And so I didn't want to buy it back here around March 4 when I know that low hasn't come in the Dow Jones Industrials Average. The low had not come. So I couldn't buy there for me, and you'll get that information tomorrow. I had to wait until after that low came in and take my next signal, which was right here where I bought it. And so that was where we got into on these Jupiter lines into this stock. Now there are other tools to help also make this decision, because we never want to make a decision on one reason alone. Your page 4, chart 2, page 4. Same Jupiter line running up. And on this chart, I have now put onto this chart what is called the dynamic trio weekly line. We looked at that this morning. And I put that line on. It's a calculation that comes on automatically. I have, in my machine, I have the Galactic Fibonacci Trader program, and that comes on automatically. And this line was running up in an upward motion. Yes, it had some steps down, but this, generally, you'll have one coming along the top, and it'll come like this, and it gives you an opportunity to buy somewhere right in there. This one was running along the bottom here, and it wasn't giving you an opportunity to buy because of the fact that this market was already in an uptrend when this signal came. So we're in an uptrend, so we don't get on this weekly line an opportunity to buy. What does that tell us? We have to go in and use the daily buys. So I'm going to look at that, the daily buys on the next chart. What you do want to look at right here on this chart, though, is that right here in the latter part of the year, or the middle part of the year to be exact, right in here, price came down and touched this dynamic trio line. It touched it right there. And if it had come through it and closed on it on the underside of it, you would have had to take all your profit at that point. If you're trading in a conservative way, you would be out of your trade right there and then finished. That would be the end of your trade. It just came down, touched the line, and it went on up, so that's fine. So you weren't kicked out, so you were still in this stock on a weekly basis. But now we have to look at buying on a daily basis, since we didn't have a weekly buy set up for us. So here we have again the Jupiter line. These little narrow lines coming down, I shall color one up for you right here, and I shall zoom in on it so that you can see it more clearly and you can look at it on your chart. And so what happened right here was price touched the Jupiter line, came off it, and went through the green line on the daily dynamic trio line on the Fibonacci trader program. The line went through it, it closed above it. We had a close above the line, and it initiated a daily buy on Schlumberger for you. And that was just a little bit over $100 you bought that stock. So that was the buy if you bought it in March. As I say, I didn't, because I was waiting for that low to come in. And so the next opportunity to buy that was given to me, because I was buying on a technical signal, was this green line coming down here from this top area, came in right here, closed above it, and that was my second buy. So I bought about, it was on this chart looking at it, it looks at about 105, and that's it was just a little bit below that, but it's right at 105 is where this chart bought. And so on this chart on the daily basis now, as the stock moves up, as you can see, it's moving up in price. And let's see what we have on our next chart.
Quick question.
Yes.
It used to be that your entry point there was going to be when the following day's bar takes out the high of that day to close the both.
You can do that, but on this stock, everything was supporting. The weekly trend was up. The daily, you were just trying to get in at a point that you got an entry point from your technicals. I mean, you could have actually bought the Jupiter line, because this works so well with the Jupiter line, you could have bought it every time. The safer trade that Chuck is talking about is taking the trade the next day when it takes out the high of the bar where you have the close above, and that's a very good trade.
Can you slide that up a little bit?
Just one second, this pen is leaking all over me. Let me throw that one down and just get rid of that for a second there. Whoops. Okay. Now, okay. So, so that would be your even safer trade that Chuck is talking about, and oftentimes in my daily conversations on the phone with people who are trading these markets, or sometimes in my lectures, I recommend that to be on the safe side. That's your safest way to get in, is to take that particular trade. But either one would be very, very good. And then this market goes on up. Now, the point is, on this daily, you're buying to get in, and we know that Jupiter is in this chart. We saw it on that list. Jupiter was in the chart from March through December. If you take every one of the sell signals on here, and you will notice, for example, right here is a daily sell signal. You have one right here. This little line running up right there gives you a daily sell signal. There's another daily sell signal. If you take the sell signals on here, then you're going to be in and out of this thing the whole time. And the point is that you want to get in on the daily technical tools, but you don't want to get out all year on the sales on this, or otherwise you're not going to make your profit. So the rule is only to get in on the daily rule, okay, on the daily buy technical signals, only to get in on that, not to constantly jump in and out of the stock all during the time that Jupiter is in there. The only time that you're going to want to think about taking that daily sell signal is because Jupiter, you know, when it travels from Earth, it's traveling along, and then for a period of time it looks like it's moving backwards. During this period when it looks like it's moving backwards, called retrograde motion, during this period that it looks like it's moving backwards, that's often the time during the cycle of the whole move up, of the 1 year move up of the stock. That retrograde period is the time that it'll take a dip down. Doesn't always, but it oftentimes does. So you might want to look at your daily technical sell signals during the Jupiter retrograde periods, but not at the rest of the time. Otherwise, you will be day trading this stock and you will never be in there long enough to make any money. So let's go on, and I think I have a chart here for you on that, but Here's just another chart just showing you that some other things that give you confidence in trading. For example, you have the Mercury price lines, and these lines, one's out of ink, goodbye. These lines, price is traveling up at Mercury speed because it's traveling up at this particular angle, and it's traveling up at the Mercury speed. So as long as it's traveling up at Mercury speed, that makes you very, very happy. It fell through the line here, touched the lower dynamic trio line, then it took off up sharply right up a Mercury and even jumped back into the channel that it had already been traveling. It jumped back into that channel right there, telling you it was very, very strong. So those Mercury channels are very, very nice to watch on this stock when it's moving up. Okay, so what happened here? Oh, that's American Home Products. I'll tell you what happened here. I wrote it on here for you, what happened here. What happened here is it tells you right here. It tells you that right as it got to here, it had a stock split. And so what happened, it had a stock split. It was at 140. It split down to 70. And so what happened was it took profits on a daily sell signal at 85 in early October. Why did it take it in October? Because I had 2 periods during this year that I was concerned about my buy in this stock. Those periods were the Jupiter retrograde period, which I would have taken daily sell signals. And the other period was October, because last year we talked about that in this class. We talked about what would happen in 1987, 1997, and we talked about, we went through certain years and what happens on certain years, and we talked about, and I'll go over exactly the same thing tomorrow that we went over last year, and how we predict these things. And we said in October of this year, we would have a fall. So naturally, if your sell signal is initiated in October, you have to be out. It's that simple. You just have to do it. You have no choice. So it was initiated, and so we took profits on this at 85. So that was the end of that stock, and it hasn't given, you wouldn't get back in for 1 month. So that's the end of the buy on that particular stock. But that's just to show you how we would go ahead and look at this stock for over the long term in the way of looking at stocks next year for the ones we want to see in just a moment. This was, yeah.
Just before you go on, now it does show that there's a couple more hits that Schlumberger is going to have, like in December.
Yeah, but that's the end of it, because if you were,
Enough movement to really.
no, you're looking at the time period, time window for increase on this, and the time window is from March to December. So you don't want to be buying in December when it's over, because that last hit, it's over. So it's finished. So you don't want to get in again. The other stock that we picked early on this year, or actually it was late last year, and these stocks were all written up in the Trader's Astrological Almanac last year. We talked about these stocks going up this year. American Home Products. This one I'm showing you right now has the Jupiter lines, and no, I'm telling you a lie here. On this one, American Home Products works very, very well with Uranus lines. These are all Uranus lines. Okay, so we were looking for this to have a buy signal right around the March area of this year. Again, American Home Products, page number 7.
So the dotted lines, because you have a Jupiter retrograde little arrow.
Yeah, I'll come to that. I'll come to that. The dotted lines on here are the dynamic trio weekly that we have on here, the technical tool. That's the weekly one. And you got a buy signal on this right here at 5-1 area. You got a buy on the weekly. You had a weekly buy. Prior to that weekly buy, you would have had a daily buy down in here, which I think I have on the next sheet. Yes, I have a daily buy, but you had a weekly buy. So we'll be looking at the daily buy in a moment. The daily buy always comes a long time before the weekly buys. But you might want to think of this, that if you buy on the daily buy, then you get a weekly buy. The weekly buy is a very strong signal to say that trend is in effect and it's now going where you want it to go. So you may very well want to add to your position on the weekly buy. But we'll talk about the daily buy in a moment. So this point here gave us a weekly buy, so it was a good place to add to a position if you were already in it. Now we have the Jupiter retrograde period, started here and lasted over to this particular point right in here. So we have this area right in here, and during that time you even got a weekly sell signal. So you're all finished in this stock. You can't stay in there now, and you're out of it and finished. And this did not have quite as long a time frame for trading it, so we were out of this stock right in that particular position. So on a weekly basis, you had got from about 60, let's say 67 to 76. That's what you got on a weekly basis. The daily basis gives you a lot more profit, because on a daily basis, this was your daily buy. This is the line coming down here on a daily basis. This is the technical buy. We're taking the buy because it's after the April fall that we had expected to come. We had a daily buy back over here you could have taken to if you didn't know about the fall that was due in March and April. You could have got in right there. You would have been a break-even point right here, but then it took off up. So you got a daily buy right in here around 60. You're in on a daily buy, maybe 61. And when the Jupiter retrograde period comes in right here, you're looking that during this time you would want to take your profit if it came down through a weekly sell signal. You had your first one here, and you had your second one here. So if you're going to use the daily sell signals, what you would do is take half your profit on the first one, and then half the profit on the next one. Or if you take half the profit on the first one, and then take all the profit if it comes through the weekly line before it gets back up and does another daily line. What you're doing by splitting your profit like that is you're do it like this particular stock. It gave you a sell signal, and then it went back up and it gave you a sell at a higher point, so you would have made more money. So you're allowing yourself to stay in longer with half a position and get more money if possible. So these are the ways that we would monitor. What I'm showing you is how to monitor this stock once you're in it with the trading time frames that we're talking about. So let's see, I have one more chart here to show you. Let's see. Oh, the important thing to show you on this chart number 7 was the fact that not only was it running up here with the price and the dynamic trio line, but we also had it running up in a Mercury channel. So whenever price starts moving at a rapid clip, look at it being in a Mercury channel. Mercury is very, very fast, and so anything that's moving at that speed, I can tell you cannot stay at that speed for very, very long, because it's so fast that it just has to fall out of the channel. And of course, when did it fall out of the channel? Just as Jupiter went retrograde. It came over and out of that Mercury channel. But the whole time it was tracking up that Mercury channel, you're pretty happy with that stock. You're pretty, you're relaxed. You're, not saying, oh, should I take my profit today? Should I take my profit today? You're just quite content with it. And you're not going to take any profit on it unless it falls through a daily sell signal after the Jupiter retrograde period. So that gave you, from the time you got in middle of April through to the middle of June, that if this stock was running up, you weren't supposed to be doing anything. And what was it doing? All that time it was running up a Mercury channel. So you could have sat back and said, I know exactly what it's doing. I'm quite confident with what it's doing. I'm very happy with what it's doing. It's running right up this particular line. Okay, so let's look at, those were two of the stocks that we had this year. So let's look at stocks that we have for next year. one of our good stocks right here is the Sun Microsystems. You have that on your page 11. And the reason we like Sun Microsystems for 1998 is the fact that this stock, this is the first trade. If you will look at this right here, this first line right here that I'm going to be talking about, this first line has Sun in Pisces, has Venus in Pisces, has Jupiter in Pisces, and it has Pluto in Scorpio. Now, Scorpio and Pisces have a special relationship. They're both water signs, and they're very compatible signs. So it has several planets in Pisces, and Jupiter in the spring of 98 is going into the sign of Pisces. So naturally, this stock is a good stock. I've also made a progression over on this side. This is the progress chart for this stock. Over on this side is progress chart, and I see that Mercury will be in Pisces by progression. Sun is in Pisces, and Jupiter is still in Pisces by progression. So we have some nice things by progression to work well with this chart. So this is a nice stock. So that's the reason we're picking it.
I have a question for you on that.
Yes.
Relating to a question earlier, is the inner circle the natal chart?
Yes.
And
The inner circle is the natal chart, the second circle is the progress chart, and the third circle is the transit chart.
so third circle is what's happening today then?
Yes, third circle is what's happening today, the transit chart. So on this Sun Microsystems, the incorporation, we just looked at the first trade chart. Now we're looking at the incorporation because these two charts go hand in hand. They work in tandem with each other. It's kind of like, if you think of it in this particular way. For example, you're born, which is the incorporation chart. This company is born. Then it starts a business. And you have a business chart. So if I look at a person's chart, I look at the day they're born, and they opened a big business and the business is doing well. So I look at the business chart, the day they opened their business, and their personal chart to tell them how their business situation is to go on. And I look at both those charts. And it's the same thing with the market, with the stock. We look at the date that it was incorporated, which is its birth, and then we look at its first trade, which is like when it opened business, so to speak, with the world. And so we look at those two charts and see that they're both doing well, because if one is bad and the other one is good, then that means that this is not going to go up as much as you anticipate. So when I said to you earlier that then I want to look at the chart and see certain other things, I want to see that everything is compatible together. So I've looked at the one chart, the first trade chart, that was good. Now I'm looking at the incorporation chart, and I see that in this incorporation chart, I have several nice things. I have Venus in Scorpio, I have Jupiter in Pisces, and I have Pluto in Scorpio. So all of those things, and those are the money planets, Venus, Jupiter, and Pluto. Venus is the small money planet, Jupiter is the big money planet, and Pluto is the super big money planet. So we have those money planets are going to have Jupiter aspecting them this year. And also by progressions, you're going to have those same planets still getting some aspects. So the two charts, the incorporation and the first trade charts, are both very, very good for increasing this stock over the coming year. And also the moon in this stock is in Pisces in the incorporation. Now it could be 2 degrees less and it could be 2 degrees more, but it's somewhere right in there in Pisces. So this means that this is a good stock for us to be looking at to trade in 1998. So how are we going to trade this stock? Well, first of all, we want to look at what it's doing this year. And we want to find out what lines work on it. That's our first step. So we say, okay, well, we want to trade it next year, but we need to know how it functions, because if we don't know how it functions, we don't know how to trade it. So I went into the computer, I threw on all the different lines, and I looked and saw, wow, look at this. The Jupiter lines are very, very nice on this. They seem to hold this very, very nicely. It held it here, and these are moves that look very interesting and prove to me that this is a good line for me to look at to buy this stock on. It's a good line to support this stock. So what I'm wanting to do then is, and I tell you right here, I've written it on the chart for you so you don't go astray. I'm telling you to look to buy the stock close to February of 98, using the technical tools that we've talked about to buy with. And we're going to look to take profit somewhere between December 98 and January 99, unless we're kicked out during the Jupiter retrograde period in the middle part of the year, which we'll come back to. Unless we're kicked out during that time, we will look to take profit towards the end of this period that we're in. So we're looking to get into this stock somewhere in February, and we're going to look for some technical tools to buy it with. Okay, so let's look at the next chart and see what that tells us. On this chart, I looked at some aspects, because what aspects do are they reverse price. So if I have one of these aspects falling in the time window that I'm looking to buy in, it may very well reverse the price up off of Jupiter line and give me the opportunity to buy. And so I see that oftentimes reversals on this stock come in the area close to, or come in the area of an aspect which is created by Mars and Saturn. And that's Mars and Saturn at 30-degree aspects. So I'm saying every 30 degrees of Mars and Saturn aspects, I expect to have a reversal. Now this is only going to work about 80% of the time, but I might have one that is going to be signaling to me a reversal on this stock. So these aspects come, as I have written down for you here, on 1-5, 2-16, and 4-1. So I'm looking to maybe take advantage of a price reversing up on one of those aspects, either 1-5, 2-16, or 4-1, especially if my technical tools set in and help me buy it. Okay, so I have one more aspect for you that I also like. Yes?
Sorry, but if it's a Mars-Saturn aspect, would I not be expecting to be going down again?
Doesn't necessarily, on a 30-degree Mars-Saturn aspect, doesn't necessarily make it go down. It can reverse it up or it can reverse it down. And if it may be coming down into the planetary line from a high from one of those, it could come down into the planetary line and then you buy it.
That's what we were talking about earlier, which I think, and it's always, the energy is relative to your point of view. You know, something that's good for one thing might be bad for another. What's good for the farmer is bad for the public, or, you know, as far as price-wise.
Okay.
What's good is bad. But, and also, if you're looking at 33 multiples, you're talking about squares and trines, you know, so squares might be bad and trines might be good. We're just looking at every multiple of 30, so we're not delineating which one is which.
Okay, so what you're looking for just is a reversal coming at that time. This, you might not even buy on that. It might not be a reversal in your time window where you get a buy signal, but you certainly want to be aware of this, that it does reverse this stock. So, you know, you're not at a position to say, boy, I wish I'd known that thing would have reversed it up at this point and I could have jumped in because it might be moving fast by now. You know, so you need to know that it's there. You need to know these things so you can plan it and see how it's working.
Do you use
Okay?
30 degrees because you pick up the major aspects versus 24 degrees?
I use 24 degrees too, but I'm not showing those right at this moment, but I do use the 24 degrees. The other aspect that works very well on this stock is also the Sun-Neptune aspects. And as you see, they do very well on reversing the stock. Many, many times it reverses and goes in the opposite direction when this aspect is in the chart. This was a low right there, came very nicely on it. This is another high. So again, you want to pay attention to this because these aspects are 120, 219 and 320. So those are all in the price range. So what can happen is you could have a scenario like this, for example, that let's say you have a Sun-Neptune aspect. Let's say price has been going up like this. You have a Sun-Neptune aspect. It comes down, it touches the planetary line, it goes up, you get your buy signal here on your technical thing, and off you go. But this aspect reversed it down. It could be this scenario instead. It could be prices going up, it comes down, you have the planetary line, you have the Neptune-Sun aspect right there, it pops it up, you have your buy signal on your technical, and off you go. So that's the kind of pattern you're looking for at that time. You're looking for something to work with you on that and for off to go. And so one of these scenarios is going to set up, because if you're looking at these aspects, it's going to be reversing it around that point. It's either reversing it down to give you the buy, or it's reversing it up and help you buy. So one or the other you want to be paying attention to. The point is that you don't want to be caught short not knowing what is creating this market movement at the time that you're trying to get in. Because if you don't know what's creating market movement, what happens if you don't know what's doing it? You get spooked. You get spooked. Something happened and you don't understand why it's happening, and you're spooked and you don't make the trade. But if you understand, okay, it can reverse down on that, it can reverse up on that, I'm looking for it to come to the line, and anything that helps it reverse up to the line, from the line, or if it helps push it down to the line, this is great, I like it, and I'm sitting here waiting for it, and I'm not spooked. Because most trades are missed because you're spooked, because you don't know what that market's doing. You want to see that market get underway and not turn around and look back the moment you get in. What happens if, for example, just like on this we're looking at right here, let's say that you have an entry point on this stock in, let's say we got this March 20th right here where we have this Neptune aspect. And let's say that you get in around March 1st and this stock starts up. And it gets to March 20th and it reverses back down. And you don't know what we're talking about, you're spooked. You say, oh, I better get out, I better get out. But you put the Mercury lines on and you see that it's come down, but it's still in the channel, and you knew that Sun-Neptune aspect could do that anyway, and you know that now it's in a trend up, Jupiter is in the chart, so it should be a small retracement. It should be a small retracement, and this stock should continue up. If it comes down at all, it should only come down as far as that dynamic trio line tracking it up. It should not come through that line. That line should be following it, and it should not come through that line. But you won't be spooked. And this is the whole point of learning to trade with these tools, is that you know what's happening with the market. The market goes up and down. And sometimes it goes up a long way and down a little bit, and the other time it goes down a lot and up a little bit. And so we're saying in an uptrend, when Jupiter's in the chart, you're expecting it to go up a lot and down a little bit on an aspect, and then up a lot again and down a little bit on an aspect, rather than the other way around. If Saturn is in the chart, then you're expecting it to go down a lot and up a little bit on an aspect, and then down a lot and up a little bit on an aspect. So, you know, once you kind of understand this, then it makes your trading become very, very comfortable. You don't get spooked with what you're doing. So those are the aspects you want to be looking at around the January period, when you're looking, January, February period, you're looking to buy this stock. So here we have some microsystems. I've got a perfect setup right here of the type of thing you might be looking for. Right there, perfect setup. Your chart 11 on page 16. If you got a setup like this in February of next year, you would be a very happy person. Came down, supported exactly on the line. Couldn't be better. On that day, right in that area, you have this aspect. Oops. Which one did I press? I pressed something here. We've had a... No, it's not. Perfect scenario. Comes down, touches the line, you have a planetary aspect within 2 days of that bottom. It reversed the price back up. This is the Sun-Neptune aspect that we talked about. Look at this right over here. You had this Sun-Neptune aspect right up here. Oh, you can't see it. Right over here, you had a Sun-Neptune aspect. It reversed price down, came down into this low period that we're looking at right now. And you had an aspect. It reversed price up. And we know that we had a daily buy signal in here somewhere, but we won't even look at daily buy signals right now. We'll look at the more conservative thing. We'll look at the weekly buy signal. And this is the line for the weekly buy, which is right here on the dynamic trio technical tool. Okay, well, I'll just put it on there and then. Okay, there's the weekly buy. Right here on this particular line, coming down. If price goes above this line, it tells us we should be buying it. And we should buy it on this line on a weekly close above this line. So we have a weekly close above the line, and off we go. We're in this stock. So that's the conservative buy, and that's how you would do it. If you got that set up, keep this chart. Monitor the stock in February and see if you're getting something that's setting up like this. You've got all the tools right in here. See if you get this set up so that you can get into this stock and buy, because this is the kind of thing that you should be looking for. Perfect, perfect setup. And because it's worked in the past, then you know that it works in the future. And as I said, what happened here just right after you got into the aspect, you had a Neptune aspect. But that Neptune aspect was a minor low and the price went up. You had another Neptune aspect there, didn't do anything. This Neptune aspect brought about the top. Okay, let me zoom. There you go. Okay, this Neptune aspect brought about the top. And then it came back down, touched the line right here, this dynamic line, and then we got another Neptune aspect on the top. So if you don't think these Neptune aspects work on this stock, then you know, you need to play with it a little bit and just see how it goes. But you got stopped out here on this stock on the weekly basis right at this particular point. So even if you just bought on the weekly basis, you would have got in at 32 and you would have got out at 48. So you had a $10 move there just on a weekly basis, which is your real conservative. This is a real conservative thing on the weekly basis, you see. If we look at the daily, we made much more money on that. But this is the kind of whole pattern that you will be looking for to occur next year. And, of course, the moment you get into the stock, you know, on the Jupiter aspect, then Jupiter later on in the year is going to be going retrograde. So you'll be getting a pattern like this, setting up during the retrograde period, and you possibly have to take profit and get out of the stock. But if you've made nice profit on it, if you've made $10 or $15 on it, you'll be perfectly happy. So that's the kind of thing that you're looking for. So you have a perfect scenario right there of what can happen with that stock next year. Let's look at the same thing on a closer basis with the daily lines. Here we have, on the daily line, we had a daily buy signal right in here. That gave us a daily buy signal right in there. And so you bought this, here was the weekly buy signal up here. The daily buy signal is quite a bit lower. If you were looking to take profit on this stock on a daily basis, your daily sell signal is going to be up in this area somewhere. You'll be selling up in this area somewhere. And we're assuming, because we're trying to talk about it for next year, not for now, but we would only look at that daily sell signal during a Jupiter retrograde period. We wouldn't be taking it otherwise. Those daily sell signals are not allowed during, unless, of course, it comes back down and then your stop is hitting you out, because obviously you have a stop. And your stop, basically your most conservative stop, is following up right behind this dynamic trio here, just following up, you know, a little bit under it all the way up. And so as soon as it just gets right under that line, like if it came just under that line, you're knocked out right in there. So just right under the line is where you're placing your stop, all the way up there. So if it sets up like this next year, then you would get in on a daily buy signal. that comes before the weekly buy signal. You'll monitor it with your weekly stop, which runs up all the way up the chart like this. You monitor it with that weekly stop. When you get into the Jupiter retrograde period next year, which I'll give you the dates on, when you get into that time frame, you will be looking to take your profits if it comes down through the daily sell signals, because that's going to be your maximum profit. What you're going to look at is also this, that if it comes back down, you're knocked out, and then you're going to start monitoring again, just like you're doing right here at the beginning of this. And because you've got until the latter part of the year, you've got till December of next year, I believe it was, you've got until that time next year of your time window for this. If you get another buy signal sets up after it's fallen down, after Jupiter's been retrograde, if you get another buy signal, you can get in till the end of the year, as long as you're not too close to the end of the year. You don't want to be getting in like in November when the end of the whole thing is in December. That's too close. You need to have space for it to move up. But let's say if you get a buy signal in, say you got knocked out in July and you get a buy signal in September, it's a good time to buy it again and take the last leg up. So that's the kind of thing that you're going to be looking at. So save these charts and look to buy this stock.
Are there enough Jupiter retrogrades that come along to where you can, you'd be able to coordinate that Jupiter retrograde with the top, and so that you can shift your stop from the dynamic trio weekly to the daily?
Well, as soon as Jupiter goes retrograde, for example, Jupiter went retrograde in June of this year. Was it June or July? I've forgotten now already, June or July. But as soon as Jupiter goes retrograde, if the market is going to top out, if that stock is going to top out, it's going to top out during that time frame. It might make a retracement. You remember I said to you that markets have to go up and down. So Jupiter comes into the chart, and it's in a direct motion. Gets in March, it goes up, and then Jupiter retrograde comes in. So if it's going to make a retracement back down, which is a normal thing for it to do, but it will do it in that time. The problem of it making that retracement down, it may make a 50% retracement down before it goes back up again and takes out the high of the earlier part of the year. In that 50% retracement down, you're going to be banging your head against the wall saying, oh my goodness, you know, I should have taken my profit. Why didn't I take my profit? So that's the reason I'm saying that you should take that profit just under the daily sell signal, and then you're sitting out. You're out and you're not concerned about it. You're sitting aside and you're waiting. Or you might take the profit on the first daily sell signal and take half of your profit. And then if you have another daily sell signal, you take the other part of your profit. And then you sit out. Or if you have a daily sell signal and then a weekly sell signal, you take half of it and then half of it. And then you're out. But by the time, lots of times though, if the stock is very, very strong, it won't miss a beat on that Jupiter retrograde. It'll go straight on up. Thomas wants to make a comment.
I think he was asking about the frequency of Jupiter retrograde.
Once a year. Once a year, yeah. Jupiter goes to retrograde every year. It's retrograde for approximately 5 months of the year and direct for 7 months of the year. So you have that 5-month time frame every time you buy a stock, and Jupiter has just gone into a sign. You have that 5-month time frame shortly thereafter when Jupiter goes retrograde. And so it's that time frame where if you didn't buy the stock, if you were lagging around and you didn't buy the stock, you have an opportunity to get in if Jupiter brings it back down 50%. Because you see, the thing is, we don't want to chase a stock. If it's moving up and moving up and moving up, we just don't want to jump in. We want to get in at a point that will be a good place to get in. So if it retrogrades, in the retrograde period, the stock retrogrades down, that's the time that you would buy it again to go to the end of the time frame, time window that you're looking at. So again here, I'm just showing you again, just for your own information for next year. You will see that the Sun microsystem works very, very well on these Mercury lines, and it travels up in these Mercury channels when it's traveling at a great speed. And so therefore we want to pay attention to putting those on when we're watching it next year, because as long as it's traveling up around this speed of this Mercury, then we're very, very happy with it. When it falls through the Mercury, even just looking at this chart, you know that it's got to be, because we know this is 97 and we know Jupiter's just been retrograde, so we know that was in a Jupiter retrograde time that it keeled over like that. But how does this stock come down after it's been going up? Well, it comes down exactly like it went up. It went up a Mercury line, and here it travels down a Mercury line. And, you know, this Sun Microsystems, you know, looking at it right now, and, you know, it's down. And, you know, if you're looking to buy it next year in January, February, March period, if you're looking to buy it, you're just happy to see this thing keeping on going down till then. You know, keep on going and going and going, you know, push down, keep on going so that you can get in here at a good price when you buy it in the early part of next year.
Have you ever explored options at this time?
Well, I'm not a good options person. I'm just not good on options. I'm not good on options, so it's not for me. Huh? Too many variables, exactly. I never have much luck with options. They're not for me. So I think I've given you a lot of tools there that you can easily buy Sun Microsystems next year without a whole lot of problem. The other chart, the other stock that I'm looking at is the Quaker Oats. And Quaker Oats has, again, a lot of aspects next year to the natal chart. You see right here, I'm showing you, this is on your page 20. You have this stock, you have Mars in Pisces, Jupiter in Pisces, and you have the North Node. Now the North Node to me is one of my most favorite things in stock charts because it's like another Jupiter. And the North Node, especially aspecting varying planets, is very, very good. You might want to, when you run your stock search, put in, I told you, put in Jupiter and Saturn for your stock search, but put in Jupiter, Saturn, and the node, because the node on stocks with Jupiter is fantastic. It makes those stocks really go up. It makes those really big moves for stocks. So you might want to look at the three together because it's like another Jupiter.
I noticed that there's Mars at 0 Pisces.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and then Jupiter at 9.
Right.
And then, oh yeah, okay. North Node at 19.
Right. Pisces, right.
Right, 19 doesn't, it's not too far.
Well, it's no, 19 still gets Jupiter going over it next year. Jupiter will go over 19 Pisces next year.
Yeah.
And North Node is a very good money planet. It's not a planet, it's a position, but it's a very good money placement. And so Jupiter on the North Node is very good. But look at the thing that you're questioning right there, is look at where progressed Jupiter is. Progressed Jupiter is at 20 Pisces.
Could you blow that
And
area up for us, please?
yes,
Because it's not
you
marked
can't
on
see
the
it.
ones in our book. Thank you.
Okay, progressed Jupiter is at 20 Pisces, and the North Node is at 1959 of Pisces. So you've got a progressed Jupiter node for this year, and you've got transiting Jupiter going over the progressed Jupiter node. So all of that is all excellent to increase the price of this stock. That's on the first trade chart. And then on the incorporation chart, you also, again, the two charts are working in tandem, which is what we're asking for them to do. And on this chart, you have Venus, you have Mars, and you have, again, the node, all in Scorpio. And you'll note that you have a Mars-Venus node. It's wide with Venus. Oops, you can't see it there. Thank you. You have a Mars-Venus node conjunction. It's wide with Venus, but Venus, if you'll notice right here, well, Venus right here is in Aquarius right now by progression. but it's still just been over a square to that. But usually I find that if you have a conjunction with Venus in the natal chart, especially with this aspect to the node, a Venus node conjunction natally, a square is not going to be bad. You know, it's going to bring out the better part of what you would be expecting, not the worst. So anyway, you've got several aspects in Scorpio here. You don't have any actual Pisces things to look at, but you do have the Scorpio, which is the trine. Scorpio is another water sign, it's the trine. So this chart is not negatively aspected then for next year. So therefore, it tells us that we should be looking at Quaker Oats as a possibility for the stock moving up. And we're going to do exactly the same thing on Quaker Oats that we did on Sun Microsystems. We're going to say, well, let's look at this chart, this stock, and see what it seems to work with. Let's kind of get some understanding of what lines and what planets work. So here we go. First of all, we've got Uranus lines on here that seem to be quite strong in holding prices. So we want to pay attention to these Uranus lines. And we've also got on here some aspects. We've got aspects that work well are the Saturn and the node aspects. Saturn with the node aspects at, what do I have on there? Saturn with the node at 30 degrees. And these are right here where I have the arrows, and at reversals we have those aspects. But what we're looking at, first of all, let's look at this, that Jupiter comes into Quaker Oats chart January, February of 98. So we're looking to buy on the support of a planetary line in the time window January, February of 98. And we're looking at aspects that create reversals. We've got the Saturn node. And the other aspects that we might want to look at are right down here. And the other aspects that also cause reversals are Sun, Uranus, and Mars node. So you might want to be paying attention to those. Now, I haven't given you all the dates on those because I'm going to let you do a little work and look some of these things up if you're really interested in trading it. You'll see those dates, and or pull it up on your Galactic Trader if you have it, and just ask it to put those dates out there, or print them out for you, the dates that these things are going to happen. So you set yourself up. If you spend just a day just working on the Sun Microsystems and the Quaker Oats charts, familiarizing yourself with them, getting the aspects and looking at the aspects around the time that Jupiter comes into the chart. And if you just make yourself a little workbook or a little worksheet with all of the aspects on and the dates that those aspects are coming, like the dates of Mars node aspects, dates of Sun Uranus aspects, and the dates of the Saturn node aspects, right around that February, March period, January, March to March period that you're looking to buy, and then try to use one of those. If it supports on the line and bounces off it, try to use one of those to help you get into the position.
Okay, but what I'm not understanding, I want to make sure I get this.
Okay.
On an aspect to the incorporation chart or the natal, or the first trait chart.
Right.
Are you looking at certain degrees or orb here?
I'm looking from the time that it comes in and touches the first planet to the time that it touches the last planet and leaves. I'm looking at that whole time frame. It's going to be an up time frame. The whole time that Jupiter is in that chart, from the beginning of touching one to the end of the other. So from what it has in early Pisces to what it has in middle of Pisces or late Pisces. The chart we're looking at has 0 Pisces and it has 19 Pisces, I think, or 20 Pisces are the two extremes of the numbers there. So from 0 Pisces to 20 Pisces is the range of Jupiter. So when it's in that time frame, because all during that time it's trining those Scorpio positions, it's doing all kinds of things.
I don't have to worry about 10 degrees.
No.
It's like you would in
No.
normal.
No, you don't. You're not looking for it just to be exactly on one thing and finish. We're looking at it during that whole time frame. The other thing that you need to know about here is that these prices travel with Mars lines. on this Quaker Oats chart. So what you're wanting to see, yeah, what you're wanting to see happen in January, February next year, once you get into it, is you want to see it take off and start running up some of these lines, moving at this kind of angle, moving at that motion. That's what you want to see happen. Once you get into the stock and you want your Mars lines on there, you want to see it tracking up them, because that's going to make you confident that you have the position on that stock and it's doing the right things. What you don't want to see is exactly the opposite of that, is, for example, something like this right here. Is Mars coming down? Price coming down a Mars price line. You don't want to see that in this stock once you bought it. You don't want to see it going this direction. You want to see it going in the up direction. If it starts going in this direction, it's going to any extent at all, you have to be out of this. Of course, you will be out of it on your technical tool anyway. But you're out of it, you'd say, oh, it's going down Mars lines, not going up Mars lines. This stock is not for me. So that's, you'd be looking at those kinds of things to help you know what to do.
So if you fall on a position that's in one of those mirror lines going down,
Yeah.
and you've missed your technical exit.
Well, if you've missed your technical exit, you shouldn't be trading.
But if you did, okay.
Just pretend, we're just learning.
If you've missed your technical exit, you better get the hell out as fast as you can. Because, see, what happens when you've missed your technical exit is then you're trying to look, the market gets against you and worse and worse and worse, and you're trying to look for ways, and then you start living on hope that it'll go back up, and if it goes back up a little bit, you get out when it gets up a little bit, but it doesn't go up a little bit, and so it's still going down, and there's just no recovery from that. You must not miss those technical exits, because when those technical exits occur, you must be out. Otherwise, there's no point in having a technical system. The technical system is for money management, because the most important thing of whatever you do is managing your money. It's not trading, but it's managing that money, and you must have stops, and you must have just follow your rules of your technical system. And if you're not comfortable with those rules of your technical system, then you need to make different rules. You need to backtrack it until you get a good rule that you are comfortable with and that you can be confident and you can follow that particular rule. So, you know, otherwise there's no point in it, because what we're trying to do, the reason I've got a technical system on here, we could manage without the technical system altogether. We could just use all the planetary things. We could have bought at a planetary line, and we could have got out when we got into the Jupiter retrograde period if price came down a little bit, and forget everything else. We could do that, and we could make money doing that. But what we do is, if we do it that way, we have no idea of where do we put a stop. And if we have no idea where we're putting a stop, the probability is we're going to put a stop in the wrong place and we're going to get knocked out at the wrong time, and that's not going to work for us either. So we have to find a technical tool, and Robert's technical tools are based on Fibonacci, which is basically what the solar system is based on, and because of that they all work well together. We're not combining apples and oranges here. They're the same thing. So this is the reason why it all works very, very well together. So that's the reason why we must get those technical tools on there, and we must follow them. So for example, here on Quaker Oats, we got a technical tool on here, and this is the same technical tool you'll want to watch, or some of the technical tools that Thomas gives you this week. Did you talk about, or are you going to talk about the solar quarters?
Briefly.
Yeah, so
I'd like Carlos said he could put them in as indicators. So,
okay, so that would be good. So there's another tool that Thomas is going to be talking about, the solar quarters, which is excellent to use as a technical tool on here too. So again, you had a weekly buy on this right here, and of course naturally you had a daily buy much lower, but you had a weekly buy, and if you had been just using the weekly only, you'd be out on a weekly sell right there. So maybe you'll get that same pattern next year. I mean, I don't know. I'm just showing you what has worked this year, and not only what has worked this year, but what has worked for many years on this particular stock, so that when next year comes along, you're not in here surprised and say, oh, I didn't know that was going to happen. I hadn't checked. Oh, look at that line. I hadn't checked it. So now you know, but look right here on the daily. Look what we had on the daily. We had a daily buy signal. We had a daily buy signal. We had a daily buy signal. All of those came in before the weekly buy signal came in. So you would have bought quite a bit lower. You'd have bought about $5 lower if you'd bought daily on this chart rather than weekly. Now, I just wouldn't want to just jump in and buy a daily on this chart without any other thing to tell me that I should be doing this. I have to have several things tell me. I have to have it supporting on a planetary line, and I have to have looked at that natal chart, the first trade and the incorporation chart, and I have to know that they're clear and free to move. I don't want to buy into a chart that has big obstacles in it, and the moment I buy it, some drastic thing happens in the company and the stock goes down. Because that's when you have difficult aspects, difficult things happen in the company and the stock goes down. I want a free chart. I want nice aspects, and I want it to be able to move easily. So I'm looking only to buy my dailies under those instances. The weeklies are a little bit different matter. If you get a weekly buy signal, you might just want to take weekly buy signals and weekly sell signals, even if you're not looking at the planetary. Now, the final thing is that I want to tell you in this session right here is that we do have some other stocks that you can look at yourself at home that I recommend for next year that also have a lot of Jupiter in them. And these other stocks are Philip Morris, General Electric, Microsoft, Abbott Labs, Oracle Systems, Motorola, Dexter Corporation. Okay. Okay, Motorola. No, well, I've got my own personal writing on here. Unilever and Allied Signal. And I believe that Grace and I have pretty much the same list for this year. For those of you who know who Grace is, Grace Morris and I have pretty much the same list. But that's not surprising since we both have the same computer program. And when you put the same numbers in, you get the same list out. So we all get the same list because that's the list that it's going to print out for us. Abbott Labs.
LAND?
I don't have it on my list. Yeah. So let me go through again, just check that you've got them. Philip Morris, General Electric, Microsoft, Abbott Labs, Oracle Systems, Motorola, Dexter Corporation, Unilever, and Allied Signal. So those are other stocks that you're going to be looking at next year for price to go up. Now, not all of these stocks are going to go up. And the reason they're not all going to go up is because, you know, you're not totally sure that that incorporation date, usually the first trade date is pretty correct, but you're not always sure that that incorporation date is a correct date because, I mean, we've called, and Shirley can vouch for this, we've called companies and one day someone's told us this and the next day someone's told us the other. So they will vary on telling you things from the company. Shirley and I have worked very hard on trying to find, and Ray of course back there, trying to find good dates for stocks. But you can't guarantee, there's no way you can guarantee that this is a good date. All we can say is these are the very best dates that we could find. And of course a lot of them we get from Delaware, the state attorney's office in Delaware, you get all of these dates. But even then, things can go wrong and it won't be the correct date. So not every stock is going to go up. The other thing about it is that this is where using the technical tool benefits you, because if the stock doesn't go up, you never get in because the technical indicator never sets up and you're never in the stock. That's what happened with a couple that we did last year, a couple of our list of stocks, you never got in them. Some of them never went very far because of varying things that we don't know about. Maybe the chart wasn't as good as it could be, but when you look at the Schlumberger chart that went to the moon, the others moved up $10. They didn't seem very good, you know. I mean, after a big move like you had on Schlumberger. But even so, you stay out of mischief with your technical tools. You don't lose a lot of money with the technical tools because most of the time, if the stock's not going anywhere, you're never put into that market. And so that's exactly what you want to happen. So I hope you have a lot of fun setting up those charts and trading those next year. Yes.
Have you done any sort of like study on the relationship with, say, a Fibonacci retracements and the planetary lines? You know, like,
That's-
say if you hit a 50% and there happens to be a line going through at the same time.
That's Thomas's department and my son Danton, Stephen Long's department. And they work on that, and Steve, I would say, has done the most work on that.
Well, if you had a stock, you just had a stock run up, say, 324 line, right, 72 degrees, and you did a 50% retracement. You did a 50% retracement at that point. That's a 36 degree, that's 10 harmonic, so it's still along the same harmonic, it's perfect. I mean, it's just an harmonic, all Fibonacci is natural harmony, it's natural rhythm. And that's all harmonics are, natural rhythm. So the two work excellently together.
When you go through your stock list, do you have a preference for incorporation date or first trade, or do you require both?
I like both of them. And I tell you why I like both is because they work in tandem together. If you only have one, you don't know what the other one's doing. And a couple of the stocks that we recommended last year, we didn't have both dates. And one of them didn't do very well. And obviously the other date, we had the first trade, but we had no incorporation, so the incorporation date must have been getting a hit from Saturn because it tanked. So, but you never got in that stock anyway because the technical tool never let you in.
Do you have both charts on Schlumberger?
Yes. This is just one more chart here. These are the ones we were talking about this morning. I think we'll talk for, how are we doing on the tape? I've got another 5 minutes. Yeah, I'll talk for just another 5 minutes. On this is Royal Dutch Petroleum. You had this in one of your bread and butter stocks this morning. And you had several things in there that you can go back over and look at that I didn't get a chance to get to because we got hung up so much with our technicals. But
Chart number is that?
this is chart number 38.
Thank you.
Chart number 38.
First section.
Hmm?
Is that the first section or where we
Yeah,
are?
first.
Yeah. And see, this is a bread and butter stock. You see from the little chart that this has gone up for over a 10-year period, has not fallen down. It's had a general move up. And so again, when it comes close to these lines, you're looking to buy. Now, when it came down in this particular area, which was the 92 area, when it came down, you had beautiful buys, and you can see on this chart that it works very, very well with the Jupiter support lines, and it came right down to the line, and of course those were very good buys. And now you've got the picture, you know exactly what's happening, because naturally you could either buy just right here, or you could take the technical tools, which I show you in your workbook, and you could take the daily technical tool, or you can take the weekly technical tool, and you're looking to get in when it touches this line. And of course this stock travels nicely up a Mars channel, and so naturally you always want to watch what the Mars channels are doing. Now, of course, what a lot of people ask me, of course, is, can you find stocks that are, a much cheaper price, because they're not really interested in looking at stocks in these price ranges. And yes, there's lots of stocks that are much cheaper prices. But that's another thing that we may also want to put in our stock file is a price range list, so that we can pull out, just ask Jupiter to search for the stocks with the low price ranges. That it's down under a certain, don't give us anything in a high price range. And
We need more things to do.
yeah, we need more things to do. I know, Thomas, we do.
Think of some more.
Think of something else to do. Of course, that's not on my agenda of something that's interesting for me to do, but that's one of the things we've.
Isn't that all part of money management? Money management?
Well, yes, it would be, yes.
Well, if you're buying a stock that's trading at $2 a share, obviously you buy a lot more of it.
Well,
But the chances, yeah, but the chances are that
let's look at this chart that we have.
Chances are that it's not going to go up.
You see how this stock travels with this Jupiter price line? I mean, it's spiraling around that Jupiter line all the way up. I mean, and this is going through to 1997. And remember, we were just looking at it right here on the 93, 92, 93, 94. Again, it's spiraling. Whoops, wrong line. This spiraling around this line. So whenever you look at this stock, you would definitely want to look at Mars. This Mars, it's been traveling on forever. It's been traveling on from way back. If it ever came down, look where it's supported right here. This is something that you want to watch. It's supported right on this channel right here. If this stock ever got down under here, then it's going to have changed its trend, because it's been supporting on this line as the lowest line that it's supported on. It shouldn't be coming down in this area, unless, of course, it's going to come down, be a negative thing, and you can buy it somewhere in this particular point, because this is where our buy line is coming up now. But as long as it supports on this line up here, you're not going to get a chance to buy in the long-term buy scenario that I set up for you this morning. You won't get to do that. But it's still a very good stock if you can buy it as it drops down some of these times in its life, then you'll be very lucky. This is the same stock, and as you see, we got the buy signals on the dailies right here, very, very close to the Jupiter line. Very nice buy signals. They did a beautiful job for you right on the line, right in the area. And so I use the same tools all the time. You know, I have some more sophisticated tools that I use, which I'm going to show you tomorrow. But I want to tell you, if you just use these very simple tools, you can't go wrong. You have to make money. But you have to put your stops in. You won't, you know, but they're very simple tools. If you just use these very, very simple things, you'll be okay. Okay, what else did I have here? I don't think what I have on my list, oh, here was another one. You have Duke Power. You also have. That's another one. That likes to support on the Saturn lines. That's chart 43. And that was from this morning, chart 43, Duke Power. This is a good stock to buy. And this is more in the range of what you might be interested in buying. And so it comes down, supports nicely on the Saturn lines. And and see, this is the fallacy of just buying the line right here, because you see it came under it. And so, but it came back and it supported on it and it took off up. And what did it do? It took off up this particular line right here. And so if you were in this stock and it had been down to the low here, right on your line, took off up the line. I mean, classic pattern. You know, you're looking at this pattern all day long. And this is a classic pattern. It's buy on the line with the technical tool. It ran up here. And your technical tool is going to cut you out right here anyway. On all of these, your technical tool is going to cut you off anyway. You don't have to make the decision, but you'll be cut out of it right in there. But those are very, very nice buys. This is a long-term chart, but you could short-term buy this chart just as easily as you can long-term do it, because it makes very, very nice moves. And it's one of my favorite stocks. So I would, you know, really consider trading this one on a short-term trading basis as well as on a long-term trading basis, as long as the natal chart is not badly afflicted at the time. I mean, this kind of thing right here, that kind of thing right there, of the stock moving down right there, that was in a time frame from here through here. Now, those of you who know anything about astrology at all don't have to be a genius to say, hey, that's just a little bit over a year period. And when Saturn comes along and gets in your chart, it's usually in there just about a year period. It sits back and forth over some particular planet in your chart. So this, you don't have to know anything about astrology to say, hey, I think Saturn was in this chart at this time. You can see it. It's in the chart. And if you look and Saturn wasn't doing anything, then you have to question that chart, natal chart, and say, you know, well, let me see if this is correct. But that's a typical Saturn aspect. it came right back down to almost where it started from. In a year, it moved back down, probably as Saturn came on its chart, probably as they had some cutbacks in the company, probably as they, reduced their base so they could expand out again at the next Jupiter thing.